Warning! This episode contains foul language, discussions about drinking blood, and a couple digs at religion and politics.
Listening to Keep It Weird, the podcast for all things strange and unusual, dark and mysterious, bloodthirsty and anti-garlic, and sometimes even irresistibly sexy. Each week we have the pleasure of sitting down and chatting about something weird. And this week is no exception. It's a new take on an age-old topic. Today we're entering the world of stakes and sunlight, holy water and silver bullets, fangs and capes, as we continue our discussion and our obsession with vampires. 3 years ago, we talked about vampire legends all throughout history and from all different corners of the world, the possibility of real-life vampires living in modern times, the role-playing and games that thousands of people play today to get a taste of the deliciously deadly lifestyle, and where all of these stories originated from. Well, this is October, mother suckers, so today we're discussing horror movies, vampire horror movies. We're taking a look at vampires in film throughout history, what the vampiric disease represented, and when they made the turn from being horrific monsters to totally irresistible sex machines. My name is Ashley, and this is my fantastic co-host, Lauren.
Hello, weirdos.
And joining us today, once again, the expert on all things pale, hairy, and full of teeth, amazing artist and monster enthusiast, Billy Roach.
Hello. Thank you for having me back.
Yeah, thank you for coming back.
Thank you for coming.
Anytime.
We love having you. This is technically your fifth episode in our 5 seasons, and we just can't tell you how much we enjoy having you on the show.
Can't get enough yet.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's good because I have a problem to stop talking, so, But that's why my other episodes are 2-parters.
Yes, that's right. We just can't stop. I mean, but this is your passion. This is your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta have you on for monsters and vampires and...
Yeah, if we're talking about monsters, I don't know who else I would call.
No.
Oh.
Real or imaginary.
I am wildly flattered.
Billy is wearing his Vlad the Impaler shirt, which I didn't know they made, but they do.
They do.
And it's pretty badass.
Yes,
I
love it.
He said it's Vlad on the front, and he turned around, and I was like, and party on the back. And he was like, well, it's a bunch of people getting staked on the back. And I was like, so yeah, party.
Total party. Being impaled, it's good.
Okay, so yes, last time... we were kind of like, okay, where do we go from here? Because we really did cover...
We covered a lot.
We covered the history of vampires, where the legends started, different types of legends from different parts of the world. We talked about what vampire films we would like to be in or we would hate to be in.
Right.
But we never really got a chance. I really wanted to do this episode because of our werewolf episode, where the second part was all about werewolf films and sort of dissecting them and taking a look at them and what did the werewolf disease represent. It was just really fascinating to learn all of those things. So I'm so excited to now do vampires because same deal.
Right.
It's a horrible disease to some.
Uh-huh.
To some.
To some.
No.
Not to Billy.
Not to me. No.
It's great.
I welcome the dark gift.
I was born of it. Before we get into it, I do want to remind everyone that we have a Halloween decoration contest going on our Instagram right now. All you have to do is send us a picture of one or all of your Halloween decorations this year, and you're going to be entered for a chance to win some free merch or even a month's worth of Patreon benefits for free. Ooh. So send us a photo on social media or to our email address, keepitweirdpodcast@gmail.com, and we'll post it in our Instagram stories. And you have until Halloween night to submit, and there are prizes for scariest item, best homemade item, best overall decor, and most dedicated. So everyone has a chance to win something, no matter how much you do or do not decorate for the season. We just want to see how you celebrate this wonderful holiday of ours. It's the people's holiday.
The people's holiday, everyone. It's the most special time of year.
And one more thing, we have a new merch store. So if you're wasting time looking for our old Etsy shop that we've talked about on the past 150 episodes, it's gone.
She gone.
You won't find it. You can now find our merch on TeePublic, and we have more designs. Everything is more affordable, and hopefully this will cut back on the amount of ordering and shipping issues that we've had in the past. Not that we've had a ton, but basically, we had to, you ordered from Etsy, the order got sent to Printful, Printful contacted us, and then if there was a problem, and the problem would go to Etsy, who would then send it to Printful, who then went...
It was just a mess.
If there was a problem, it was a nightmare to solve. So hopefully this helps, and there's a ton more stuff on there for you, including a design by our guest today, Billy Roach, who made us this zombie Keep It Weird design last year that we loved so much. And I kept saying, I'm going to put this on a shirt. I'm going to put this on a shirt. And by golly, today I put it on a shirt.
And I just found out. So I'm sitting in the corner turning bright red. I'm glad it's dark in here.
When you walked in, I was like, look at our merch store. The only thing is, guys, you do have to follow the link that we provide for you in order for us to get the profits from the sale. So follow the link in our social media sites or follow the link on our website at www.keepitweirdpodcast.com/merch and get yourself a t-shirt, hoodie, magnet, button, tank top, whatever your heart desires. The only huge bummer is that there are no more sweatpants.
Ugh.
TeePublic does not have sweatpants.
That is a tragedy.
It really is. Literally,
I hope you all got them last year
Amy
during
Hanselman
COVID.
was like, so I can't get sweatpants? I was like, bitch, you had 2 fucking years.
All we ever did
to
was
get
talk about
sweatpants.
the sweatpants on the show for a full 2 years.
But
so.
truly, if enough people reach out to me and are like, hey, I actually do want sweatpants, I will literally find a way to get you sweatpants.
We'll
So
figure
please
it
don't lose sleep over the sweatpants. That's all I had. I really want to talk about vampires. And Billy, you're starting us off.
I always want to talk about vampires.
I know.
Yes.
So if I were to ask you what the first vampire film is, what would you say?
Well, I would say Nosferatu, but I think that's wrong.
I know that it's wrong, and I should know the right answer because I looked it up earlier.
Wow.
And I already forgot.
Well,
I literally looked it up.
Nosferatu is the most common. It came out in 1922, but there was a film in 1896
Jesus.
called House of the Devil.
Oh.
They refer to the villain as the devil or as a devil, but a lot of our common vampire tropes come from that film. Like you see him turn into a bat. There's blood drinking.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, one of the
But they
first,
just said devil.
They just said devil. They refer to him as a devil. Yeah.
I actually really like it when vampire movies, even today, or vampire TV shows, wink wink, have vampires but don't ever say the word vampire.
Yeah, which kind of is one of my favorite
That's my
films.
shit.
I don't know if y'all have ever seen this.
Oh, I have. I know
My-
exactly what you're going to say.
One of my top 3 favorite vampire films, Near Dark.
Do you know what I'm going for as Halloween this year?
What?
Bill
Please tell me.
Paxton
Oh
in
my
Near
God.
Dark.
Severin? I love Severin. Give me back my fucking sperm. I love that movie so much. It's so good.
I love
It is so good, and yeah, they
Yeah.
never ever say
they don't
vampire.
say
They
we're vampires.
Never say the word vampire, and you never see fangs.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah, they don't
But
even
you just
really
know
have things.
that that's
Yeah. You see them
Mhm.
grab people and bite, but you never get the overly dramatic, wide mouth. Yeah,
Yeah.
they just
Which I
grab and they
love.
go right in.
It makes it creepier.
It does. It really
so
does.
yeah, it kind of takes the drama and the cheesiness out of it, and you're just like, oh my god.
There's also a lot of throat slicing in that movie.
Well, you know,
Lot of throat
that'll
slicing,
happen.
a lot of blood. In the same vein though, one thing that drives me crazy is when there's a zombie movie and they don't call them zombies, they call them something dumb. They'll be like the runners or like
They have a weird
the
term for
Yeah.
them.
deadites
Well-
or whatever, and it's like
Yeah.
they're fucking. Everyone knows what a zombie is.
They're just zombies.
What
Like
world do you live
the
in?
the Walking Dead. They never
What do
say
they
the
call
word
them?
zombie. They call them. Everybody has their own term in that show, like
Crawlers.
walkers, munchers,
Right.
because what Robert
There's different
Kirkman, the
categories.
creator, said is in the world of the Walking Dead, zombie fiction never existed.
For sure.
So
Which, I
they
kind
never
of
say zombie.
appreciate.
But then it kind of
Sure.
carried over to a lot of things. And I'm like,
Yup.
they're fucking zombies.
They're
guys. Come
zombies.
on.
Come on,
we all
guys.
know what's going
Yeah.
on here.
Okay, so House of the Devil. Wow. Okay.
So
House
that was
of
like
the Devil.
the very first.
And then a kind of fun, spooky thing, even
Mhm.
before, which fits right into this show. Before Nosferatu, 2 years before Nosferatu, there was a film called Dracula with a K. And nothing regarding this Russian silent film is known to survive. There are no known production stills, and there is very little information about this film available. Most sources agree that the existence of this film is questionable.
Oh?
But
That's
there's just
creepy
enough
as hell
small documentation on the internet
to know that it
that
did exist.
did exist? Question mark. But yeah, I thought that would kind of fit in kind of perfectly into
that's
this,
spooky.
because it is. It's like a spooky aspect of this lost vampire film that no one will ever see.
Ooh, and a silent
Ever.
film, like
Yeah.
it's probably so eerie if
When
you
was
could find it.
Dracula written?
1893.
So it was already...
I want to say 93.
So the story existed, and this
Yeah.
was probably just a twist on it in some way.
Yeah, it was unofficial. Like most of
Okay.
these, the Stoker family and Stoker
Right.
himself wouldn't give people permission to
Sure.
make this into a film. That's why Nosferatu, he's called Count Orlok, but it's the Dracula novel.
Yeah.
Right.
Which-
Just had
Yeah,
to
it's the
change
same
it up.
story.
Exactly, same story. Yeah.
I love the Nosferatu vampire style as well. Like especially like watching What We Do in the Shadows, for example.
Yeah.
What's the one that lives in the basement? I have a picture
I
of him
forget
right
his
here.
name, but he's the best. They have to go wake him.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they like feed him chickens.
Yeah, like, here you go.
But I just love
But
that.
he's got a very common name. It's like Pete or
yeah,
something.
it's like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Peter,
because
yeah.
they even said, he's like, Peter is not coming
Throwing
to
in
the
the
meeting.
chicken.
I love
It's
it.
so
Peter
good.
is 800 years old. He's not coming to the
What We
house
Do in the
meeting.
Shadows is a masterpiece.
Seriously.
So,
And the TV
And the
show,
show.
just as good.
I was so
And
worried.
Same. It was like,
So
it can't
worried.
possibly be good because the movie was perfect and it's hilarious and so well done.
Yeah, I remember when they announced it and they were like, but Taika Waititi and Jermaine Clement are not going to be in it. And I was like, then why are we doing
Yeah,
this,
then
guys?
count me out. 'cause they're the
But they
best
managed
part.
to find 4 hilarious people
Amazing
to play the
people.
main roles.
And
5,
they did show
if you
up.
count
They showed
Guillermo.
up a couple times.
True.
Yeah, they showed up a
They've
couple
made
times.
some appearances.
Let's not forget the Vampiric Council
I
episode.
could never.
Probably
It's the best
the
episode.
greatest thing that's ever been put on film.
Wesley Snipes
Leslie's
on
on
Skype.
Skype.
You can't beat it.
It's so good.
Oh my god. I love it.
But yeah, so like the first known vampire film, I think commonly is Nosferatu,
Yeah.
which I think is something that's ingrained in like all of our consciousness, but a lot of people like haven't seen it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think I saw it maybe once when I was a teenager. And then when I moved out here, I actually got tickets. Allison got us tickets to go see Nosferatu. Original German print.
Whoa.
There was a kind of creepy old lady sitting on the stage playing an organ.
Perfect.
Cool.
And there was a guy in the front with a microphone just translating the German to us.
Whoa.
It was
Oh my gosh.
it was amazing. And the organ was on loan from a family overseas, like a German family. It was so good.
Wow.
It was the
wow.
creepiest thing. I loved it. And it was in this old creepy theater as well.
Yeah, it'd be
So-
weird if
just
it was
like
an
the
AMC.
entire
Yeah.
the entire experience was
Yeah.
creep-tastic. I love it.
AMC matinee. I come out
Yeah.
at 2 p.m. I'm like, oh.
With
Just 1 p.m.
Nosferatu,
in the theater.
for me, I have it on DVD, like an old, it was a part of one of those like 50 horror movie classic DVDs that you
Yep.
get for like $15. So it's played before and I've watched a handful, but it's usually just on.
I was
So,
just
like, I
gonna say I've
get
had
it,
it as
love it,
background.
But I
It's a-
haven't ever like sat down and like,
It's a great mood piece just to have in the background
Oh,
because
it
it's
is.
so
Like,
creepy.
I think I've mostly seen it at Halloween parties because somebody had it like on a projector on the wall just going.
Yeah.
But like you look over and see him doing his creepy walk, and that's
creepy,
all you
creepy
need. You're like,
crawly
okay,
walk.
well, I'm not gonna sleep.
Or where he
This is-
slowly rises out of the coffin
Oh.
with those eyebrows.
Yeah,
I love the
Just the
fingers
look.
too, just those long,
I was gonna say
long
the
love those
fingers.
fingers
Anytime
so
they're
much.
out, I'm like so
Yeah.
uneasy. It's creepy.
just the long shadows as he reaches across the body. I love it.
Yeah.
It definitely, that style of vampire to me, that design definitely makes it feel like more of a disease.
Yes.
It reminds me a lot of what Del Toro did with The Strain.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot. Like where it is a disease, it's something biological, and your body just kind of gets rid of everything it doesn't need.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you haven't read the Strain series, they're phenomenal, and the show is pretty good as well.
Yeah.
It's got some like lackluster episodes, and it kind of diverts from the book a little bit, but it's a great series. It's a lot of fun, and I love the vampires, and they're so monstrous and they're so creepy.
Yeah.
They don't have your traditional fangs; they have a 6-foot stinger that shoots out of their
Isn't
throat.
it like under their tongue?
It transforms their entire intestinal system into a stinger that shoots out, hits a body and drains in seconds.
Whoa.
Seconds.
I remember reading
That's
it. I read
terrifying.
it back when we
Yeah.
worked together. So, like, that was like a decade ago. And I remember really loving it, and it was legitimately quite scary.
Yeah. Vampires used to be scary.
Yeah, we used
I have
to be afraid
say
of them.
used to be,
Yeah.
yeah.
Used
That's
to
not really
be-
the case anymore.
Well, and still can. I think it's making a bit of a resurgence of vampires being
trying.
scary.
I sure hope so.
They
Gosh,
are trying. There's been
please.
some really good films recently that I'll let you know about. But yeah, those strain vampires are so good.
That is something else.
Well, and it's biologically, it gets rid of everything you don't need, like your nose falls off, your
Yes.
genitals fall off. It's like you don't need those as a vampire. You're now an
Yeah.
apex predator.
right,
The only thing you need is the ability to hunt and kill.
right.
I also love they're all controlled by the master. At any time, the master vampire can just take them over and be a conduit to speak through them. That's, to me, is so creepy.
That's very
That is so
extraterrestrial.
Yeah, he can be
It
anywhere at any time. I love it.
Wow.
The
He's
master's amazing.
omnipotent.
Yeah, I love it. It's
Very
so good.
creepy. I
But he's
like
got that Nosferatu vibe. Like,
Yeah.
the bald, big ears, the kind
Long,
of,
creepy
those.
fingies.
Oh, I love those fingies. They're so good.
Those are
I
the best
love them.
fingies.
They're so good. And that's something that they did in the television miniseries for Salem's Lot, too. It's just such a great look. I will never forget, as a kid, seeing Kurt Barlow for the first time on film from that miniseries, because his skin is like just blue.
Yeah.
He's like so pale, it's like blue, and he's got these intense yellow eyes that I swear to God he doesn't have eyelids. He's just always staring, full eyes. That movie creeped me out when I was a kid, but I loved it. I love to get creeped out. That
Yeah.
stuff's great.
It's a rush. It's
Yeah.
fun.
I always get asked, why do you like watching this so much? I like to be scared.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird. I do find that a lot of people that I talk to a lot of people with anxiety disorders. Either they reach out to me because they know I have one, so we talk about it, or like I've joined like Reddit conversations about people with anxiety disorders. And one thing that is a common thread is that we all seem to really, really be into horror movies.
Yeah.
Really?
And I was like,
reading
how
that as well.
interesting
Yeah. Like
is
the
that?
most anxious people who don't want to be like surprised or have curveballs thrown at them want to watch a very scary, jumpy movie.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
What is that?
I don't know.
Scientists,
Let us know.
reach out.
Anybody know?
I had no clue. That's great. But yeah, if you haven't read King's Salem's Lot or seen the miniseries is a little slow, but it's got a great build. Definitely find it. It's out there somewhere. It came out in 1979, and
I
it
need
was
to read
great.
it. That's one of the ones I have never read, and I know that they're remaking it now, again with my dude William Sadler. So maybe I'll
Give it a read.
do that.
It's
It is
really
spooky
good.
season.
It is really good.
It's
It's
the
my
time.
favorite. Vampires, yes, but it's my favorite Stephen King novel.
Yeah.
He's done vampires a few times though.
Yeah,
He did. Did you ever read or see The Nightflyer?
I saw the
Oh.
Speaking
Speaking of creepy vampires.
Speaking
that a
of
really creepy
terrifying
Oh,
vampire.
he is
I don't know The
so
Nightflyer.
creepy. He's like, his face is literally like just a bat's face on a man's body.
No.
And he's got
Oh, I
these
don't know if I would like that.
long fingers with sharp fingernails. But the thing that's great in the film anyway, the thing that's great is he wears your classic like Dracula cape. So he's got the
Yes.
big collar. But he's got this like stringy, ratty hair. And then he's shot in shadows all the time. And then when you see his face, it's just like, wow. It's like, I love it. I love it. At one point, his
That's so
mouth
good.
even opens up, this huge mouth, and his teeth extend even further.
Ooh.
It's super gross. I love it.
That's one of the
That's
ones
a
that
good, like,
I haven't
monster.
seen since I was like 14, and I'm almost too scared to rewatch it because I know that it can't be as good as I thought it was when I was 14.
You don't want to ruin that
know it's not
magical
good.
feeling. I know. It's so sad when
I
things
just
don't hold up.
Recently, I hadn't seen Pet Sematary 2 since I was in high school. And Pet Sematary 2 used to scare the shit out of me. So I had me and Joe watch it. Holds up.
It still holds
Yeah.
up.
Holds up.
Okay.
You should
Okay.
absolutely watch Pet Sematary 2.
All right.
I don't think I've
fucking
revisited
rules.
Pet Cemetery 2.
Dude,
No,
Clancy.
absolutely not.
Clancy
Brown.
Clancy
I
Brown.
love Clancy Brown.
I have always known that I've been afraid of Clancy Brown my whole life. It is definitely because of Pet Sematary 2.
You're now making the connection.
And
now
I'm
that
now,
you've seen
like,
it.
after watching it again, I was like, oh my God.
is
I was
the
like, this
reason.
is why I've been so afraid. Because he doesn't always play a meanie Bobini, but he
Yeah.
often does.
It's not his patchy hair and held together neck by safety pins from the Highlander.
Couldn't be that.
You know what? Maybe there are a couple reasons
Yeah,
I'm
all right.
terrified of Clancy Brown.
I think you're just scared of Clancy Brown.
Maybe I'm
That's
just
all right.
scared of Clancy Brown. And Clancy, if you're listening,
Mhm.
I'm sorry.
Really sorry.
It's not your fault, Clancy.
But you've done a great job.
But you're a really good
You're doing your
actor,
job.
and
Yeah. I
think
I'm
you're
happy
supposed to scare people.
you exist.
Yep.
Sorry, I was afraid of you.
This episode is dedicated to Clancy.
Dedicated to Clancy Brown.
Another really kind of often forgotten vampire film from the 80s. It's really wild. And if you want to talk about just kind of scary, just like visceral, like vampires, is a movie called Life Force.
I've never seen Life Force.
Never seen. It's from 85.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that makes it weird is they're space vampires.
Okay.
They're space
You've
vampires
sold Ashley.
Sign me up.
who
Like,
shapeshift.
couldn't have sold her more.
But their true form is a giant humanoid bat, maybe bigger than humans. They're huge, and it's got some of the best animatronic work.
Ah.
It's directed by Tobe Hooper.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Into that.
And
Who,
written
for
by,
anyone who doesn't know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Poltergeist, Tobe Hooper.
and it was written by Dan O'Bannon, who wrote Alien.
Oh, so
Okay.
I'm already
Yeah.
on board just from that alone.
So
It's-
Dan O'Bannon was like, all right, what if Alien took place in space again, but instead of xenomorphs, we have vampires?
A big old bat.
it is kind of like
now,
a
do they
a
come to
strange-
Earth,
they
or
come to
does it
Earth.
take place on a spaceship?
No,
they come to Earth.
it all takes place on Earth. It's about
Okay.
astronauts bringing this alien virus to Earth.
You know what? I
Oh.
actually
Yeah.
kind of like that. We haven't had that origin before
No.
of vampires.
I
It's
have
usually
never heard that
extremely
associated. I'm excited
old.
about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will
I'm-
absolutely watch that movie.
Space vampires, come on.
Space
Yeah, you
vampires.
can't-
Like, come
you
on.
can't beat it, guys.
When has it ever gone wrong
Oh.
putting space in front of anything? Like Jason X. He's in space. It's terrifying.
It's what we all
Leprechaun.
asked for.
Leprechaun 5. Which one is it where he goes to space?
I have no idea.
Hellraiser. They did it to Hellraiser, too. Didn't he
Hellraiser goes to space.
he
No,
went to
did
space.
Hellraiser go to space?
Hellraiser went to space, and not
No.
only did they go to space, the friggin' spaceship was the puzzle box.
Okay. All right, writers
Wait,
of the
that's
new
actually
Hellraiser.
creative.
Sorry,
I'm gonna
spoiler
need you to
alert.
take notes.
No, that's
Okay?
actually really creative, and I'm
Spoiler
into
alert.
that. I didn't think I'd like Hellraiser in space, but I like that.
But the ship like contorts and transforms at the end of the
Oh,
film, and it's
damn.
the puzzle box.
That's
I'm-
good.
I-
I like that.
We need to make it back here, guys. We need to make it back to the good old days.
The
We were
80s.
just talking. We just watched several Friday the 13th movies because Joe's never actually seen them. So yesterday we watched 2, 3, and 4,
Nice.
which he had never seen. Which here's the thing about the first 6. They're the same
Your statement's
movie.
already hilarious. Yes, they are.
They're the same movie.
Yeah.
That no beats are different.
I'll be honest. I don't think I've seen Beyond 5.
Okay, you need to watch
'Cause
it
I was
when
sorta like-
shit start, when we put Jason in New York City,
Jason Takes New York.
when Jason's in Manhattan,
I thought you were going to say
shit gets crazy.
it's going to take 6 movies for you to really get into it.
Oh my god.
I need you to hold tight for 12 hours.
Hold tight, it's coming.
Wait. What is the New York one called? Is it
Jason
just
Takes Manhattan.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's called
No,
Jason Takes
that
Yes.
makes
Well, I
me
think
so
it's
glad that
Friday
it
the
sounds like it's a
13th.
Mary Kate and Ashley movie. Like, it's literally like
And boy, does he take it! My God.
Jason and the
storm.
Big Apple.
But
love
yeah, I
it.
do.
sure
I
there's-
miss those days because the thing with the Friday the 13th movies, there's 10 of them.
Oh my
They all
gosh,
came
yeah.
out in a decade.
Yeah, they all were coming out back
Which
to back, and they
means-
were so fun.
You gotta go. So I like this Hellraiser, Friday the 13th Freddy Krueger thing where
Yeah.
it's like, we gotta make a movie. We gotta make it different. What do? We
Yeah.
put them in space?
Put 'em in
yeah.
space.
Put them in space. Why not?
And even though
Why
some
not
of
go
them are
there?
a little ridiculous, they're so fun. You
Doesn't
don't even
matter.
care. You're like, yeah, I wanted to see you on a spaceship.
So the next
It's fine.
Paranormal Activity movie, if it doesn't take place on a fucking spacecraft, I'm not seeing it.
And what are
Gonna
you
need
doing?
them to be
You're
in the
wasting
space
our
station.
time.
You're wasting my time.
Don't want your other garbage.
They did a Dracula in space. It was called Dracula 3000.
Yes, they did.
Oh boy.
It's
It
really
is
great.
Terrible.
Yeah.
It's so bad. The whole
I
thing looks like
assumed
it was
you said great. It was
filmed
great.
in a warehouse.
Yeah.
It stars
Like, this looks like
Hollywood
space, right?
heartthrob Casper Van Dien.
Casper Van Dien, man, what can't he do?
Also,
was
let's
the
not
space
forget.
set basically just like a kid's planetarium project, like
Yes.
with the little orange hanging down to be a planet?
I mean, I knew I was in for something really special when I saw Coolio was in the movie.
Oh
Yeah,
boy. Yep.
usually.
Yeah.
When a
Oh,
rapper
God.
enters the scene in a horror movie, I'm immediately like, ticket for one, please.
You're
I'm
in for
going.
thrill. Yeah, I gotta see it.
Oh, it just all boils down to more horror films in space, please.
Yeah, I think we're done with the episode. Just take that.
That's it.
Yeah, that's all the
We're
time we
done.
have this week.
Bye.
We
I'm
solved
with
it.
you.
Yeah, kind of going back to after Life Force, I mean, you can't think about the 80s without thinking about Fright Night.
Oh, Fright Night.
Fright Night.
What an amazing,
God, I love Fright Night.
amazing movie.
And it blends a little bit of that, hey, we've got some sexy vampires, but don't forget that underneath all that, Jerry Dandridge is a monster.
Yeah.
Absolute monster.
Like when you see his form at the end, and he's got that kind of deformed face with like the offset jaw and the kind of teeth shooting out of everywhere. And then Amy, look what he turned Amy into, and she's got that huge smile
shark
with just
smile.
teeth everywhere. So gross. I love it.
So gross,
And then-
but amazing.
And that bat form that he goes into, like that 4-foot bat or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's just some really great, like, slimy puppet work.
Yep.
God, so
Yeah,
good.
I really liked Fright Night. I'm sure other movies maybe did it before, but that was the biggest one for me where the vampire started to be charming.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think
Started to charm its
that
way
was-
into, as opposed to just being shadows and
Yeah, it wasn't just the creepy, like, what's lurking behind the curtain. It was like, hi, I'm here, and I'm gonna,
Hey, I'm
rope you in
John.
with my
Yeah.
my looks and charm, but then monster.
Yeah, as far as film goes, I think that's where the vampire really starts to take the turn to
Sure.
that kind of more seductive creature. But I think inherently the vampire was always kind of meant to be seductive. If you look at it like text, if you look at film, there's a long time where vampires were just like the monster, the villain, kind of like just this evil entity that they could point at and be like, that's obviously the bad guy.
Right.
And then it started to become more like ambiguous in the late 80s. They started to have feelings and think about things like, do I want to be a vampire? So you got this real shift in the 80s. And I think like 85, like Jerry Dandridge is kind of the beginning of it. He wasn't really so much, but you get it a little bit with like Amy, because you just feel like Jerry was having a good time being a vampire.
yeah, Jerry liked being a
You can't-
vampire.
you
That
can't
fucking
blame
asshole.
him.
Just walking down the stairs, eating that apple. Always eating that apple.
Always
Eating that
eating an apple.
Gotta
That's
have
when
those-
you know you're chill. and
Yeah,
having
gotta
a
have
good
those
time.
chompers shiny. Love it. I love Jerry so much. But yeah, they are really starting to make a resurgence of vampires as these monstrous creatures in recent years. I mean, let's not forget 30 Days a Night.
30 Days a Night
They
was
weren't-
legitimately
Yeah,
scary.
like they weren't
Very
so much
scary.
like these big monstrous things, but they were like
Savage.
uncaring, just monsters that ripped through a town and ate everybody.
Right.
They didn't even really speak. They just like snarled and screamed at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they understood each other, but I love that film so much.
Me
It's
too.
so bleak.
Yeah.
And
It's very
it's one of those movies where like everybody in this film is gonna die.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's gonna be really fun to watch.
Yep. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah.
Starring Hollywood heartthrob Josh Hartnett.
Josh Hartnett,
Josh
baby. Gosh, he's a hottie.
Josh Hartnett, here's the thing. Like, is he a great actor? No one would say
but
that.
we all want to look at him.
But my word, like, so many of the things I love so much, The Faculty, 30
Mhm.
Days of Night, Penny Dreadful.
Dreadful.
Yes.
Josh Hartnett
do
has a
like
hand in
everything
it.
that he's
Yeah,
in,
and
yeah.
it's like, okay, I have to give him props for at least choosing things that I like.
Yeah, for sure. I'm enjoying every genre. he's
Yeah.
in, but yeah, he never blows me away with his performance. And I don't know, sometimes I don't know if it's him or just like the way his face looks. Like, can't be anything but calm.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
True, yeah, he
I
doesn't
don't know if
emote
he like has
too
control
much.
of it. I think it just sits there.
Separate entity.
That's all it does. Those like eyes and like the brows and eyes just always kind of stay like
You
sunken
know what?
in.
Those squinty eyes, you can just always tell that he's brooding. I'm just into it.
It's a little pain behind those eyes.
Did you ever see Lair of the White Worm?
No.
Lair of the White Worm is another kind of forgotten film.
Mm-hmm.
It deals a lot with zombies, but not your traditional zombies. It's like the Haitian voodoo zombies.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
and there's
Cursed.
a little bit of vampire in there too. And the vampire in the movie has this very like snake-like appearance. It's just a woman, but she wears like this like cap on her head, so her hair is like down to her skull, and she's got these long like 3-inch snake fangs. It's based on a story written by Bram Stoker. So another Bram Stoker. Yeah, and it had
What year did this come out?
this came out in 88.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
It's an
And
80s movie.
It's
Oh.
got, I can never remember his name. Pullman.
Bill
Pullman.
Pullman.
Yes.
Yeah, Bill Pullman.
We
Yeah.
struggled to remember his name recently too. I think we
Well,
actually
it
said
was a-
Paxton instead of Pullman. Was like, no.
It was
wait.
when I was confused and I thought Christian Slater had to be dead.
Yep.
And we
We
had
just
this
went
whole
down a
thing
rabbit
like,
hole.
why?
Yep.
Yep. It was a whole thing.
I'm more curious about why you thought Christian Slater was
I don't
dead.
know.
That
That's
is
the thing.
exactly what I said.
I
was like,
saw
you
him in
make
an
no
ad
sense.
for something, and I was like, didn't he die? And everyone was like, no.
Was
And
it
I was
Dr.
like, why
Death?
do I think it was Dr.
Yeah.
Death? I was like, why did I think Christian Slater was dead? And then I started thinking, like, you know who I always get mixed up? Christian Slater, Bill Paxton, and Dirty
Patrick
Dancing,
Swayze.
Patrick Swayze.
Mhm.
Not
Really?
that I get them mixed up, but sometimes I get their roles mixed up.
Yeah.
Like I'll be like, was Paxton in that, or was that Swayze? You know what I mean? And Christian
most people
Slater
would be
always
like,
gets like
"What?"
thrown into that. And those two, R.I.P., love you both, they're
Yeah,
dead.
Which I didn't
so,
find out until very recently that Bill
Yeah, I'm
Paxton was
so
dead. I don't know
sorry.
how I missed
I'm
that
so
news
sorry,
story.
Lauren.
R.I.P.
So, what layer of the white worm?
Lair of the White Worm.
I've
what
never
a
even
name.
heard of
Jesus.
that.
Yeah, look it up. It's
Looking at my
real.
list.
It's real like cerebral. It'll get in your head. It's more psychological. And
That's my shit.
there's like people being buried alive.
Oh hell
Yeah,
yeah!
it's a crazy
That's up
film.
our alley.
Okay.
Yeah, so it touches on a little bit of vampire stuff, but it's more like Haitian voodoo zombies.
Okay,
But it's
I love it.
but I
Here
thought
for
you
it.
know I'd throw it in because it's another work of Stoker, and you get a little bit of vampire in there as well. And then there's a series of films. There are 5 of them from the 90s. They are absolute garbage, and I love them to death. If anybody listening has not heard of Subspecies,
Subspecies?
do yourself a favor. Watch Subspecies 1, 2, 3, the spin-off Vampire Journals, and then 4.
Oh my god! I love that you have it specifically spelled out how we have to do it. I'm ready.
The main character is Prince Radu.
Okay.
Radu was also the name of Vlad Tepes's brother. They don't make that connection in this film,
Okay.
but I love him so much. He's kind of that Nosferatu type of vampire, except he's got this long, stringy hair. He's got those fingies I love.
Love the
Got the
fingies.
fingies.
And he's got 4 fangs, the 2 in the front, then the ones next to them are the long ones. And they're super long, and he is always dripping blood out of his mouth, and it's black. It
Ugh.
just looks like he's dripping ink out of his mouth, and he
Ew.
talks in a whisper like this the whole time. It's so good.
Now, is it one of those things where it's like the first one's really good and then the rest are trash, or are they just
They are
right
garbage
from the
from
get-go?
the start.
Okay.
I love it.
And they're
I
They're
love that
never
for them.
good. I
It's-
feel like that's better.
Have you ever heard of Full Moon, the production company Full Moon?
Yeah.
That makes like Puppet Master, all those.
Uh-huh. I remember
It's a Full Moon production.
Okay.
So that kind of tells you what you're getting into.
I was going to say
All right,
Full
I'm here
Moon
for
really
it, though.
was like, we have a budget of $8. What can we do?
Yeah.
What can we make with
We
this?
spent all our money getting all the actors over to Romania.
Right.
What else can we do? But there's some great, almost Harryhausen-esque stop motion in a couple of these movies.
Okay.
Because when Radu is trapped, he breaks off a finger, drops it on the ground, and it turns into a little stop-motion red demon that comes and helps him.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
It's
a
so
little
good.
finger demon assistant.
Yeah,
All right.
and at one point there are several finger demons.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's
All
so
right.
good.
I'm into this.
Yeah, and he's got a brother that looks human. Ugh, there's a love triangle. You got to watch these movies.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm
listen,
here for the
in.
drama.
They
and
are
the,
so
the
good.
romance.
Full on garbage, and then they replace the main actress in the second movie and pretend like it never happened.
Ooh, very
It's
Back
so
to the
mean when they
Future.
do that. Yeah.
But it's not even like a subtle change. The
It's
character
dressed.
is Michelle in the first movie. She's this American girl who's traveled to Romania to learn abroad, and falls in with
As you
vampires.
do.
Age old story.
Yeah.
But it's this American actress, short hair, brunette. Second movie, Michelle comes back. Second movie takes place immediately after the first movie. She has super long, wavy brown hair. I'm like,
Well-
what did she grow? How did we?
Hello?
How do we?
We couldn't
What?
have even tried to match the hair,
you couldn't
gentlemen.
just give
I was
her a
gonna say,
haircut.
get a wig,
Like,
anything.
I say gentlemen because you know a woman was not in charge of that
No,
decision.
No.
No.
They
Men
would've-
were like,
they
"That's not
would've
the
paid
same hair?"
attention.
I thought that was the same hair.
Put her on something low cut. They'll never notice.
Yeah. Put her boobs
Show
out.
some cleave. You're
Stick
fine.
her boobs out. We'll be fine.
But it's so good. I love that. But then, kind of moving away from like the 80s, 90s, you are kind of getting that resurgence I keep talking about. Like it started a little bit with From Dusk Till Dawn.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that movie is full of great effects and just monstrous vampires. Are they snake people? What are they? We
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah,
But that's the
I
fun.
love it. They got scales. It's so good. I like seeing vampires as villains, not these kind of like lovelorn, like,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, there's something to be said about that, but like, I want a vampire that's just going to walk up and rip your throat out.
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to be
Those are the more fun movies.
I
They're
said
just
I want to
better.
be scared.
So good.
I want to be scared.
I want to be scared of them.
And then just a few years after that, you have another movie that I loved. I think a lot of people don't.
Is it The
like that
Forsaken?
much. Oh no, it's not The Forsaken. But I will say The Forsaken has a great vampire origin story. If you, yeah, it's so good. It's like they were like 13 fallen angels that became like the Knights of Hell or the first vampires. Yeah, so good.
Very
Yeah.
demon knight of them. But also, I really liked in The Forsaken how you could suppress it. There was a guy who had pills. Like, he had been bitten, he had been attacked, and he knew that he had to kill the vampire that bit him to break the curse on him. But he also had a connection with a guy who was selling him pills that he could take to suppress his vampirism.
So he wouldn't have
again,
the thirst.
it's the idea of this disease,
Mhm.
which for anyone listening who doesn't know, that idea especially exploded in the 80s when we had the AIDS epidemic.
Right.
You think about like the vampire movies of the 80s and how it really was, and the early 90s, really was focused on the fact that this was a transmittable disease, and almost a sexually transmitted disease, because a lot of the vampires around that time started shifting into like sexual beings
Right.
as opposed to just bloodthirsty monsties.
That just are, out for blood, want to attack everybody. Yeah, then it became more of, this story. Well, I need to have a lover and blah, blah, blah.
This episode is brought to you by Liquid Death. Just when you thought water couldn't get any cooler, it fucking did. Want to look like you're drinking a beer in church? Well, now you can, because these tall boys look just like a can of your favorite brewery's ale, but it's actually just mountain spring water from the Alps.
I love it.
Why is it called Liquid Death, you may ask? Because it will brutally murder your thirst and fight back against plastic pollution to save the world. Their recyclable tallboy cans are helping bring death to plastic bottles. They also donate 10% of their profits from every can sold to help kill plastic pollution. The more companies we can support to fight against plastic pollution, the better. Also, drinking ice-cold water from a can is just better.
It really
It's
is
just
more
better.
refreshing. Always the
So
choice.
refreshing. So cool. And I fucking dare someone to pull me over while I'm drinking my delicious Liquid Death mountain water.
Joke's on you.
Joke's on you, sucker. Get free shipping on all water and merch. Yes, they also have cool merch at liquiddeath.com/keepitweird. That's right, if you use liquiddeath.com/keepitweird, you can get free shipping. Or, if you sell your soul like us, you can follow that link and join Liquid Death's Country Club. If you do and purchase 2 or more cases, you'll receive a free t-shirt, and their t-shirts are totally badass.
Sell your soul!
You can also find Liquid Death at Whole Foods and 7-Eleven. Well, do you want to
Changed a
tell
lot.
us about when
Well, I thought
the
our-
shift happened?
Well, I think Lost Boys was a little bit of the shift.
Yeah.
That's where we had talked about that before, where I think, when was that? That was like, I don't have the exact year.
It was
I didn't know if you were
87.
going to
I
talk
was gonna
about that.
say,
I didn't know
Billy
if it
will
was
know.
87 or 88. Yeah.
It was 87. It came out the same year as Near Dark. So I'm just saying, that's
it was
why
like-
nobody knows about Near Dark.
It was late 80s when things started to shift, and it was like that. I think Lost Boys was kind of the first to be like, hey, like, you can be a vampire
They're
and like
pretty
a cool
cool.
high school kid.
Yeah.
Like, you can have the cool outfit
You
and be
can
like
have
kind
it
of
all.
a badass. Yeah. So that kind of started the trope of like, you can be this really cool, everybody wants to be me type guy. And it also brought in like the high school trope, which we saw later with like Buffy, which it kind of made it more
Yeah.
like fun. I don't
Which
know.
I think Buffy even kind of borrowed a little bit of the look from Lost Boys when the vampires turned.
1000%.
Same look.
Same furrowed
exactly,
brow.
yeah.
I think that was absolutely the inspiration, because then the Buffy movie was 1992.
It was it was before the
It was before the
TV show, which I
Yeah.
didn't know. And I never watched the TV show. I have watched episodes
same.
here and there.
I didn't watch it all the
It
way
wasn't
through,
something
but
I could ever get into, but I fucking love the movie.
The movie is so
I do too.
great.
The movie's great. I've just rewatched it recently. I love that film.
It's great.
The movie is great.
Start
And a
to
lot of
finish.
people
Rutger
don't know.
Hauer.
They think it was a show that then they just made a movie because everyone loved it. But movie was first. I think it's 92. And then the TV show came out later. But it kind of, that idea of you can be the cool kid and the vampire. And then you can also be a badass who beats up vampires and is also a cheerleader. Which
Is also
made
a
it very fun.
Well, and I'm wondering, okay, so Fright Night, what year was Fright Night? 88?
Fright Night was 85.
85, okay.
That also has that
A
look.
little bit of sexiness, yeah.
But more
Totally.
more monster.
Yeah, I was going
Yeah.
to say sexiness, it was more charm.
Seduction.
It was
a little bit.
being
It was-
able to
I'll pull you in.
A lot of
and then-
seduction, especially in that club scene.
Yes.
the club scene was very
Yeah.
seductive.
Mhm.
But I'm thinking, before that, was there a film that brought it into a younger person's life? Because before, most vampire movie, it was all adults.
Right.
Yeah.
For me, I thought it was Lost Boys was the first time it was high school. Is that not true? Or Fright Night?
Well,
I guess.
I'm just thinking Fright Night because they're the lead is a high school student,
Right.
but yeah, to bring vampires into
It was always an
a
old,
younger
even an older
person's-
person. It wasn't even just oh yeah, he's probably 35. It was an
No, it was
old
an
man.
adult.
Yeah.
You
So
think about your
I-
Van Helsings and things like that, where these guys are
Right.
in their 60s.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
so
even
yeah, we
you
really
don't see
started
the
to
high
bring it
school lot, but
into a
Lost
younger
Boys was
person.
that.
And when you think about what's happening to younger people, like teenagers, and the amount of horniness,
Uh-huh.
uncontrollable.
It's the raging
Horniness.
hormones, and then on top of it, if you're also thirsty for blood,
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, you
there's
think
a
about
lot
it,
going on there.
a teenager who is just super hormonal is just a monster. you know?
Seriously. That's why I love the werewolf trope so much,
Yeah.
because you know, growing hair when you don't for the first time, sweating more than usual, and literally, especially even just at school, that's the
Right.
most mortifying place to do it. You
Totally.
have acne for the first time, you smell for the first time,
Right.
hair, and it's just this literal transformation that's happening, and you're I would give anything to not have this happening to my body.
Right, for the world to see all of it. I know. Yeah, that was kind of where the twist happened of showing us there can be a modern young vampire, I feel like. But then one of the biggest vampire movies came out in 1994, shortly after the Buffy movie, that was just totally different. Because you would think after Lost Boys and Buffy kind of back to back, it's oh, so we're just going to kind of go on this cool teen thing. But then they're no, we're going to do more of a period piece again, but with two of the hottest men you've ever seen in your life, an interview with the vampire in 1994.
And what is it? Is it Interview with
The
the
vampire.
vampire?
Did I say
No, I was just
Oh.
reiterating because so many
I was
people
oh
say
my god,
Interview
did I
with the
say the
vampire.
wrong word?
With
Interview with
a
the
vampire.
vampire.
Yeah.
It's the vampire.
Yeah, there's a lot of people say a vampire.
It's almost like
Yeah.
Sex in the City, Sex and the City.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yeah. And that people say that's Mandela effect. And I'm
It's
no,
no,
you
you're
just
just
don't know
incorrect.
things. You're not a true
No, you're
fan
just
of the
wrong.
show. You don't know Carrie Bradshaw like I do. No, Interview with the Vampire. This is where we see, a huge shift, because I think a lot of tropes came out of this movie. It's also just an amazing movie, but it's not a horror movie. There's scary moments and dark moments, but it's a drama piece.
Especially
It's-
later on when Lestat is
falling apart and the worst and so
it's
scary.
so scary.
Even though he is just physically attractive,
Mhm.
he falls into that monster category for me because he just
Oh, absolutely.
did not care about anything
he's
except
just
for
kind of a piece
feeding.
of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. I was going to go into a little bit in case people haven't seen it, because I feel like I've met a ton of people recently who are I actually never saw that, which again,
Wow,
because
watch
it's
it,
not
guys.
a horror movie. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why people don't
It's
put
a
it on the list,
drama.
but gosh, it's good. So it's from author Anne Rice. She wrote the novel in 1976 and then wrote the screenplay to be released in the 90s, and it kind of got rid of this pure monster idea we have. Yes, I think Tom Cruise's character absolutely had monster qualities, but this was the first time we saw a really beautiful vampire with
Yeah.
the perfect skin and the shiny hair and that immortality. That was the biggest
And they
thing
didn't
where-
transform
No.
into
they didn't
monsters.
there wasn't a bat. There
Mhm.
wasn't there wasn't really shape-shifting. It was just oh, I now have my forever youthful glow and I'm going to be this stunning porcelain king. So this kind of changed the classic idea, and this is where we come into sexy vamps that make us feel some sort of way. So Tom Cruise is it Lestat? It is Lestat,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Lestat de Lioncourt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it's like DuPont. How is Brad Pitt's last name? It's like Le DuPont Dulac or
Yeah.
something. Louis Le
Louis.
DuPont Dulac.
Louis.
Louis Le DuPont Dulac.
Yeah.
I never know how to say it. But he's from Louisiana, and he's walking along one night, and Lestat basically comes and is like, I'm going to turn you into a vampire and take your worries away because,
You're
Brad
a hottie
Pitt.
bo body.
yeah, Brad Pitt is miserable. He just lost his wife and child and is like, I don't want to live anymore. Tom Cruise is like, join the vamps. It's a fun time. So he changes him into a vampire, and the whole movie is kind of following their adventures together. And this is when we learn the vampire trope of a tortured vampire who doesn't want to be a vampire, which was also a huge thing. Tom Cruise loves being a vamp. He loves being a monster. He loves taking advantage of this power that he has. Like, he knows he can take anyone kind of whenever he wants and live forever, and he likes it. Brad Pitt becomes a vampire and is immediately like, I don't want to kill humans. Is this really how I have to be? He can't deal with the cravings, with the thirst. He's miserable. And this is the first time it's like we see someone wanting to be kind to the humans and not take advantage of being a monster. So he starts drinking animal blood, and he's like, I can just be a vegetarian. It's fine. Oh, we also get a young Kirsten
I was
Dunst.
going to say, we also get our first, that I know of, child vampire.
Child vampire. Kirsten Dunst gets turned.
I'm looking at Billy like,
Sorry, Ashley.
Oh, no.
I'm going to refer back to Near Dark.
Oh.
Near
Homer.
Dark does have a
Yeah,
child vampire,
Homer, yeah.
and
You
he
should
is
know, and that's
fucking
disappointing.
hilarious. I mean, he's basically what I assume Kirsten Dunst's character would be in like 100 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? After she's been a vampire for so much
Had more
time.
experience.
Because he is a child, but he talks, his dialogue, he acts like a 40-year-old dude.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious.
I love
He
that.
curses, he spits, he smokes.
seen some
Like,
life.
yeah, but he's a literal child. You are so
seeing
right.
a child do it is just the best. It makes it that much better. Yeah, she is a 10-year-old girl that gets turned into a vampire. It's a whole situation. We're not going to go over the whole movie with you, but she kind of goes under their wing, and Brad Pitt almost like becomes a father figure to her and is like, I love you like a daughter, but then
But she was like, but I want to fuck you.
yeah, but I'm actually in love with you. And then Tom Cruise, as per usual, is like, I'm just going to train you to be as much of a monster as me. Let's go. Let's become assassins together. So again, this whole movie, we just have these like polar opposite vampires, which also becomes a trope. We started to see it
True.
more in TV shows where there's like these two vampires, like sometimes they're brothers, other times they're just best friends, or in their case, they just like kind of happened upon each other. But it's these, one is the tortured, I don't want to be a vampire guy, I'm going to try and do good for the world. And the other one is like, dude, let's party, let's fuck, let's go. And we see it in a really cheesy, terrible show that I, of course, watched called The Vampire Diaries. That was on the CW. The Salvatore brothers, they had Damon Salvatore was the partier and Stefan was the romantic and didn't want to hurt anybody and dated a human, blah, blah, blah. We sort of see it in True Blood, too, with, what's the
Bill.
toast? Bill
Yeah,
and
you see it
Eric.
with Bill and Eric, yeah.
Bill and
Yeah.
Eric, yeah. They also have that going. And
That's true.
yeah, so I feel like that one comes up a little more. As I was saying that out loud, I'm like, oh my gosh, that trope is everywhere.
You get that a little bit from Spike and Angel as well.
Oh my
Spike
god!
Angel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spike and Angel from Buffy.
I
It's
feel like
everywhere.
we got a whole new group of tropes once we started making movies in which there were several vampires in the film. Because for a long time, it was always like a town is being stalked by a
The
one
vampire.
vampire, yeah.
There
The
is
vampire.
a vampire. There's
Right.
the even in like Fright Night, obviously more vampires end up
Mhm.
showing up, but it really is sort of, there is one villain
Right.
in the movie. So when like in the 80s and 90s when we started having like groups of them, especially when we started learning about like, what do they call them? Not covens.
They
A
do call them
nest.
covens,
A
don't
nest.
A nest,
They call
yeah.
it some
Some do.
they? In
some
certain,
do.
like, I
Yeah.
guess it depends
Yeah.
on which vampire world you're in.
But True Blood especially, they call them
Yes.
nests
Yeah.
because vampires are communal, I guess,
Sure.
creatures like
Yeah.
bats, like
Right.
bats that hang together in a cave.
Well, and that's why, like, you can't blame Tom Cruise. Like, yes, he's choosing to live a certain way, and he looks like a monster to Brad Pitt's character, but it's like, he did want to do it together. Like, he was trying to be in community with this guy.
But
Like,
also it's
join
like-
me.
Fighting against nature.
Yeah.
I'll give a little bit of pushback on that one, though, just because I
Oh.
think, sorry, Hot take.
Hot take.
Tell us.
I think that Lestat is just a true villain from the get-go. I don't think he wants that sort of community from Louis at all. I think he wants it a little bit with Claudia because he wants his successor. He is a vampire in the truest form because all he was trying to do with Louis was suck his essence, his whole life. He wanted to be a nobleman. He wanted the money, the house. He wanted the prestige that Louis had. He didn't care about Louis. He just wanted Louis' station in life. So
he wanted his stuff.
Yeah.
He wanted
to go to fancy parties.
I felt yes, 100%. There were a couple of times you would see, I say a human moment when he wasn't a human, but there were some layers to Lestat.
You see it more with Claudia, yeah.
Claudia brings out that soft side of him, but you're correct that for the most part, to Louis especially, he was just fuck this guy, but...
It's hard for me to discern sometimes too because I love the book so much, and he is so much... there's so much more to him in the books. You do get a lot of it from the books also.
Yeah.
And something that Anne Rice brought in that I love, speaking of these sexy vampires, is sex and gender meant nothing to her vampires. Even in the 70s when she was writing about it, there's a brief moment in the film where Louis falls in love with Armand. And, they have a brief thing where you can tell they love each other, but it's not meant to be.
Yeah,
another spurned relationship. In the book, they spend 300 years together.
Oh my God.
And they live as a couple for 300 years until Armand gets bored. And just moves along. Yeah.
Because honestly, it was 300 years.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what I mean?
a long time.
That's a long
that
fucking
is
time.
so long to be with one person. You're going to get sick of them, I tell you
Not
what.
gonna happen.
Armand Antonio Banderas, for anyone who doesn't know, there's more attractive people. Also, we mentioned Christian Slater earlier.
Christian
He
Slater's
is
in
the
it.
reporter.
So, yeah.
So, the whole narrative of this movie is framed with this interview in modern times. We're in the 90s when we start, and Louis is being interviewed by a reporter from San Francisco, because Louis is like, sup, I'm a vampire. Christian
Let me tell you
Slater's
about my life.
What? Tell
You're
me.
a who's you what?
And so then he tells him his whole story of how he's with Tom Cruise. So there's just lots of sexy men.
Now, before Anne Rice, Dracula, he was all about the ladies, right?
Dracula was all about a lady. A lot of ladies he just wanted control over.
Right, okay.
That was his big thing, yeah.
I just assume Anne Rice was the first to kind of do it, but that's carried on as well, where vampires are very sexual creatures and they don't seem to have much of an orientation when it comes to sexuality.
Anne Rice said the reason she wrote that way is because she was struggling with her own gender identity. So she said her writing was reflective of her, and also the character of Claudia was written after her daughter who had passed from leukemia at a really young age, and she said that writing this story was her way of processing her grief.
That's
and
very
that
cathartic.
All of the you even look at Louis' character. How do you carry on when your whole life is shattered? He lost his whole world, and basically the whole movie, his symbolism is what is the meaning of life? What is this all for? Why am I even doing this? And I think that was absolutely her and what Anne Rice was going through. And so, that's what I think is great about the books, is that it's all what was going on inside coming out in the writing, and it makes for a really cool vampire story.
It makes for really good writing too when people channel that sort of pain.
My gosh.
When they channel their own, she's obviously has no experience being a vampire, but she has an experience with losing a child and feeling
having her
isolated.
Life fall apart and and saying I have no idea what this life is for. I am Louis searching for it. And she said it was very important to her to have characters that transcend, that go beyond gender. She never wanted that to be so set in stone. And even said, a little fun fact, that at one point she wanted to write Louis as a female because she was worried that Hollywood was going to be too homophobic and shut down the project. And she thought, hey, the project is too important to me. If they need this to be a woman so that nobody's worried about a possible gay relationship, I will make it a woman. And someone they were considering was Cher, which I loved.
What?
Wow.
I'm so happy the movie was the way it was and that it was Louis, and it was all supposed to be how it was supposed to be. But if that character had been a female, I want no one but Cher.
If I could visit
that is so
an
good.
alternate dimension where that movie was made with Cher, I would watch the hell out of that.
Love that. And also Cher feels like a person that is kind of I don't care about gender either, and I'll do whatever the hell I want. So I'm you couldn't have picked a better person. So I loved that fun fact. I thought that was really cool.
Recently we lost legendary comedian Norm Macdonald, and I went back and I was watching some Norm Macdonald clips of Weekend Update, and I watched his review of Interview with a Vampire.
Uh-huh.
His interview with the vampire review is not gay enough.
Which honestly,
Needed more
same.
gay.
Like
Yeah.
I wanted. There's so many times in that movie where I'm like, "We just fuck already,"
I know.
and they never show me.
There's
Even
so
though,
many
again, even though Tom
intense
Cruise, it was
stares.
like horrific, I wanted them to have sex. I
Yeah,
wanted
of
them to
course.
be together. I wanted him and Armand to get together. I wanted all of it.
Yeah,
There
that's,
wasn't.
that's my ship, is Armand and Louis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. More
There's
of
so
that.
many.
I think the
just-
angry sex of the other two could have been fun, but we'll see.
Are you about to talk about some shit you can find on the internet that's I thought you were gonna be
No,
like,
no, no,
there's
no, no.
so many
I'm sure there's fan art.
fiction.
I'm sure there's like
and
fan
fan
art,
art.
fan fiction. I just love the kind of intense, like tender stares between Louis and
Beautiful, they're
Armand. It's just like,
beautiful.
and that's the thing I think I love about that movie. There's some great like action pieces, some good gore, but it's a kind of a quiet
Mhm.
vampire film.
It
And I
is.
appreciate that. I
Yeah.
appreciate those moments of reflection where you kind of find out about the vampire.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I love the flashy like 80s Lost Boys stuff. There's no wrong answer for
No,
vampire
yeah,
films,
really
essentially.
not.
They're all just different.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful movie, and everyone is so good in it. Like, Anne Rice she was mad that Tom Cruise got the part. She didn't want him to be in the main role at all. But then after watching it, she had to call him up and apologize and was like, you were perfect. Like, you took
Yeah.
exactly
Sorry,
what
I
I
doubted
envisioned off the pages. I'm so sorry. So that was really cool. And also, one more fact, this one's a little more sad than fun, but River Phoenix was originally
Oh,
meant to
yeah.
play Daniel Malloy, the reporter, but he
Oh.
died just 4 weeks before filming began. So Christian Slater was put into the part instead, and Slater donated his entire salary to Phoenix's favorite charities. He didn't take a penny
Wow.
for it, which I thought was great.
That is very sweet.
Yeah. So, Interview with the Vampire, guys, that one kind of changed the game. I mean, Anne Rice, I think, really changed
Yeah.
the game
Yeah.
with her ideas. But then we get a little later into the 90s. We obviously get Blade. We talked about Blade a ton on the last
Yeah.
episode, but you have to bring it up because
Blade.
that was just such a cool movie because, you know, we're seeing the evil, like, obviously there's the horror and the action of that movie that's so fun, but also we get the first, like, really... like a guy with swag to kind of
What?
come in there. And I know he's
Deacon
based on a
Frost?
Marvel character.
Yes.
Oh
he
wait,
is.
are you talking about Blade or Deacon Frost?
Blade.
Blade.
Oh, okay. I
You
didn't
got
know if
that.
you were talking about Wesley Snipes or if you were talking about Snipes.
Wesley Snipes!
Wesley
Severus
Snipes.
Snape came in. Oh my gosh, there should be like a Severus
Harry
Snape
Potter.
crossover. Let's do it.
I didn't know if
Um,
you were talking about Wesley Snipes or if you were talking about
Yeah, he just has swag. And I'm also like, we brought a man of color in finally. It's been like the most whitewashed.
That's true. It has
Many
been
vampire
very
movies
white.
had been very whitewashed. So
Unless you count Blackula.
Blackula.
Well, unless you count
But that
Blackula.
was in the 70s, right?
70s.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen Blackula, it is such a riot.
one
It's so fun.
Ganja and Hess, which
I-
is a vampire movie. I don't have my phone from the 70s, and it's two people of color. It's a black man and a black woman,
Ah,
and it's very sensual,
okay.
but it's very good.
Saucy vamps.
And no one seems to have seen it, but it is on
No.
HBO Max right now. So
okay, so yeah,
watch
I'm wrong.
Ganja
There
and
were
Hess.
people of color in the movies. I just did not
But
hear
Blade
of that
was the
one.
first like mainstream.
sure, that
Everyone
everyone
knows
saw.
about Blade.
Well,
yeah.
Then also, I mean, Blade was awesome. A very, very great movie that, again, we've talked about way too much on the show. But just a few years later, then we, besides, you know, getting some more people of color in the movies, then we get some LGBTQ representation with, I know this isn't a movie, I just want to mention it, True Blood. And I feel like, again, because of Anne Rice being more progressive and opening up the way that she did, I think it made other people feel safe to bring their shows out. And finally, we get like this vampire show that gets to go on HBO, so they can do whatever the hell they want. So it's very sexy,
Yeah.
very gross, all the things. People were stoked on it because there's so much representation there, and even people believe like the metaphor of the show of like coming out of the coffin, having to come out to all the humans is like,
And the way, I
It's
mean,
coming
even
out.
just like the way the vampires were treated, you know, God hates fangs is on
Yeah.
like a sign in the South. And,
All
and
of
it's
it.
just very much so an allegory of what it felt like to
Try to
be
come out
different.
in the South?
And yeah, try and come out in the South or just like in general, you know,
Sure.
they have the very obvious Republican conservative talking points on TV about
Yep.
what we should do about this problem.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, to be fair, vampires were a little bit of a problem in True Blood. It's not like they weren't,
No,
not
of course.
killing
Yeah, they
people.
weren't.
Yeah.
Some people were trying to drink the
But-
synthetic blood, but yeah, some people were
Yeah.
not.
But yeah, I liked that
It's true.
allegory a lot.
I know. Yeah, it just felt like things were really starting to progress, and we kept seeing these new twists on vampires, and we really started seeing that in the 80s and 90s. But then I have to talk
All
about
right,
it
here we
because
go.
it's a thing.
Here we
Then
go.
comes
Here we go.
Stephanie Meyer.
Stephanie,
You all
thanks
knew
a
this was
fucking
gonna
lot,
happen.
Stephanie.
We have to. We have to talk about it. Meyer took the idea of the beautiful vampire that we were starting to see more and more with the perfect skin and forever young, but turned it into a young adult romance that basically has zero horror involved in it and is for teenagers. So,
A young adult Mormon
yep.
Yeah.
romance?
The Mormon audience, basically. Which I get what she was trying to do. You're trying to reach a wider audience, and she was trying to ride on the wave of Harry Potter. Like, she saw what was happening with that, and she's like,
Absolutely.
oh, I can do this with the youth. So, like, girl, I get it. Get your paycheck.
Hell yeah, I'm
She
not
knew
mad
what
at
she
her
was
for
doing.
making the money.
Just like, I
I'm mad
like
at her
hate
for
that
bringing
this has
this
to be.
into my life.
Yeah. I think I'm just sad that it's vampires, because, like, this isn't what they're supposed to be.
But, I'll give her a little bit of credit. And I don't, this might be unintentional credit, but there is, I believe it's a Hungarian lore about vampires reflecting light from their skin.
That would sparkle.
Oh, that would...
Not so much sparkle, just
Right.
just I don't think the term sparkle was ever used, but there is like
Glitter.
an old, they're glittery, and I hated the sound.
Yeah.
Sorry, every time
When it
they
was
stepped
like,
on twinkle 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 twinkle. Yeah, I hated it so much. But there is old lore about vampire skin reflecting sunlight.
Okay, so she
So-
wasn't, like,
So it's-
horribly off.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I did like that idea of, like, not necessarily
Burning
bursting
up.
into flame, but
I
you
thought that
also
too.
can't be in the sun
Yeah,
because
it
you'll
was like
be...
that twist on we can't
Yeah.
go into the sun,
Yeah.
not because we're going to light on fire, but then they'll see.
also
They see my glitter.
a lot of the vampires being killed by sunlight was created by Murnau, who did Nosferatu.
Ah.
They never once say Dracula can be destroyed by sunlight in the novel.
Really?
Yeah.
That was
What?
all an...
That's a good
modern
fun
thing.
fact.
Yeah.
I would have assumed
So,
that was a Dracula
That
thing.
was created by
That was-
a director.
Now we know.
So I know a lot of people are people who really like horror don't like their vampires in the daylight, but I mean, really, if you go back to like old vampire fiction, there's nothing that says the sun kills them.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it
It's a
just
new
kind of
thing.
it's one of those things
Became
that
the
kind of we
thing.
talked about before, like with garlic and all those things we talked about on the last vampire show. It's like it became a thing and it just became ingrained in vampires.
Yeah.
Right.
And now when you think about vampires, what's the only way to kill a vampire? Sunlight.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
Garlic.
maybe not.
That is true.
Holy
And the
water.
garlic, yeah.
Yeah.
I saw like a meme or something recently about how vampires can't be around like, crucifixes.
Mhm.
And it's like, yeah, but vampire lore goes back further than Christianity and way further than the time that Christ died on the cross. So,
like they
what
didn't know what a cross
all of a sudden
was.
all of a sudden they were like, ouch, what
Ouch!
the fuck? What happened?
What is this?
What happened?
This wooden thing? What is that?
Like I'm sure it's also another movie that's not great on the tomato meter.
Right.
Oh
Is,
gosh, yeah.
Dracula 2000.
Well,
You know what though?
You know what? Well, now I have to look it up.
It
Just
does it for me. Please tell us.
For
what the
me
tomato
though,
meter is.
I'm always drawn to vampire films that can introduce something new
Yeah,
to the
absolutely.
genre.
yes.
Or you can do something or spin old mythology into something new. And the reason I love and will fight anybody right now about Dracula 2000 is his origin. Dracula's origin in that movie is that he was Judas Iscariot. And he got cursed by God for betraying Jesus.
Yeah.
That's why he doesn't like silver. That's why he doesn't like crosses. So that's
Dang.
And,
So it began
Yeah.
with at the same time as Christ.
the betrayal.
And
then,
also-
Wow.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
fun.
in the beginning of that movie, they heavily indicate that he was also Jack the Ripper. So that's fun. Yeah.
I always
I'm
love
all
that.
about it.
Now, the movie might be like mildly garbage, but it's got a great origin for Dracula, and the whole thing takes place in New Orleans, so I have to love it. Like,
yeah.
I had
What's
to.
the tomato
Yeah.
meter?
I wanted you guys to guess first.
Oh, okay.
35.
53.
17.
Holy shit! We were both being
We
very
were.
generous.
The audience
Extraordinarily
score is
generous.
39, so that's
There you
something.
go.
But
There
the
you go.
critic,
Okay, that's
the
what I
critic's
was thinking of.
17%.
I was obviously not
People
thinking
are
clearly.
mean to vampire. People are mean to vampire movies, you guys.
Talking about people of color and great new things to do with vampires,
Mhm.
there's a great film out right now. Just came out. It's an Amazon exclusive from Blumhouse called Black is Night. Also takes place in New Orleans.
Awesome.
Mostly black cast. There's a queer character.
Love it.
Okay.
And it's just a fantastic film. And the vampires started in Haiti. And most of the...
Nice.
There are white vampires. You never see them in the film. They only talk about them. But there are black vampires, and the darker, the better, the more melanin they have in the skin, the better they can resist the sun.
Oh,
That's
wow.
Yeah,
See,
and I was like,
that's
is a cool
fascinating.
piece
This
of
is what we
lore. Yeah.
need. Yes.
Yeah, and I think that is amazing. Like, the movie was pretty good. And then when you hit me with that lore, I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
World building in general in a movie is
It's so
it
important.
can make or break it.
Absolutely.
But especially if you're doing something like vampires that we've seen so many times. We've seen scary vampires.
Yeah.
How
We've
can you
seen
twist
loving
it?
vampires. Yeah, we've seen
Put your
teenage
own mark on it,
vampires.
yeah.
Right.
We've seen vampires in space. Actually, we haven't. Get on it. So like to be able to surprise me at this point with vampires, A+.
I agree. And I think that is part of the issue that I have with Twilight. Well, one of the many.
I was going to say,
Just one.
that's the issue.
Is, yeah, that, like, first
not
of all, the
Renesmee.
horror was totally taken out of it, and it was just made to, like, turn into romance, but also that, like, nothing really changed. Again, it's a tortured vampire. We're seeing the whole Cullen family, not just even Edward, like, the love interest. The whole vampire family that he lives with, they're all the tortured souls who want to be kind to humans and don't actually drink human blood and find other ways to quench their thirst, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I've seen that before. There's also some evil vampires, so there's always a little bit of the war.
Have you ever seen vampires playing baseball?
That's true. I do like that scene, mostly because they use Muse as the band playing
And the
over it. And it's very
CGI
fun.
is
Those special effects,
so good.
they look so real. We love it.
I often think to myself, if I became a vampire, what is the first thing I'd do? Play baseball.
Play baseball.
Yeah.
I mean, it was pretty cool how fast they could run into the woods to get the ball, and that would be a fun feeling when it's like, I got you out, even though you hit it 30 miles that way. But no, it has a lot of struggles. I guess a cool thing out of it is the director was Catherine Hardwicke.
Mm-hmm.
So a female director is always a good thing. And the first Twilight movie made more money in its opening weekend than any other film directed by a woman.
Wow.
So I thought that was very cool. Like, again, they knew what they were doing. They knew how to make the money. It made so much money. We were introduced to Rob Pattinson, which just became like the biggest heartthrob.
Thank you for that. I will say
He's actually an incredible actor. Like, I'm happy that this is
very
what
excited
got him
for his
in.
Batman.
Yeah.
Speaking of
Yeah.
bats,
I can't wait.
He's
and
kind of like an
Robert Pat-
exquisite weirdo. Like, yeah, you know,
Absolutely.
he's like, I mean, he's known as like this heartthrob, but he's kind of a weird guy
He's very
who's like
weird, but I'm
super
into
low
it.
energy and doesn't really want to show up for anything, and I can get behind that.
Yes, I know. I'm actually about it. Yeah. But again, didn't turn into a bat. These were just sexy humans who had perfect skin and beautiful eyes. So she obviously built on that trope, gave us the sexy Edward Cullen, gave us him falling in love with a human girl and having that, you know, whole love story where he's like, I don't want to get too aggressive and attack you, blah, blah, blah. But then she finally becomes a vampire at the end of the series and they get to be happy. So it's great. But Stephanie, I'm
Can't forgive
just
you.
not into it. But I did want to draw that connection. You mentioned like Mormons. That is like the one thing you can talk about. Are there themes behind it? So Meyer does have some dangerous vampires. Like I said, there's like the bad guys. There's the people who are
Volturi,
like, yeah,
or
the
whatever the fuck.
Volturi. Well, they're like the Catholic Church, basically. That's what I feel like they represent. They just seem like the high priest looking over everything. But then there's those guys who interrupt the baseball game to come find
Thought
Bella.
that was
and
the
they're
Volturi.
like, why are you... That's fair. Why would you know? Why would you know about the Twilight details?
I just
No,
thought
then
all
there's
the
just
bad
like
guys were
the
Volturi.
rogue vampires
Oh, okay.
who like hate the Cullen family because they're like, why do you protect humans? You're so dumb. So she has her evil people and they, you know, they're preying on all of the humans. But the Cullen family seem to be like the Mormons of the story. The Volturi, on the other hand, they're the ancient vampires in Italy who like lead everything and police the vampires. They're watching everyone, making sure they're following the rules. So they seem more like they're the Roman Catholic Church, who Joseph Smith and his Mormon church like hated all of that. So it also is sort of like, I see why the Cullens would want to go do their own thing. Carlisle Cullen, the patriarch of the family, was said to be born in the 1660s, the same period when historic Mormonism started in Europe. He became a vampire when he was bitten but not killed by a very weak vampire, and his choice was to turn away from vampirism to eat animal rather than human food, turns his eyes gold instead of red, and over the next 2 centuries, he decides to become a doctor to save humans instead of killing them. And this, like, whole timeline, if you, like, really dig into it, which somebody did, matches up with, like, kind of the way that the Mormon church was formed.
Wow.
And him taking up the medical practice in the 1840s is the same time as Joseph Smith's restoration of the gospel in America. And then he went to America. So, it does kind of add up. And Stephenie Meyer was extremely Mormon. And that's also why I think her story comes off a little more conservative, and that bothered people because it's vampires. But again, she just wanted teens with raging hormones to read a romance novel and get
And boy, did
extra
I.
horny and excited. And
Yeah.
boy, did I. Yeah, I read the books. I can't even lie.
I read the books.
I gave her the money.
Yeah.
And I loved
I
it. And
gave
I
her
got
the
the
money.
tingles when Edward and Bella had romantic moments. So it
yeah.
worked.
I did see all of the films.
I did too.
My sister loved those films, so I went with her dutifully to watch them. But I mean, it's like it's vampires. I gotta watch it.
Yeah,
Yep.
of course.
One
Yeah.
of these
It's your
is bound to be good, right? I did get excited when I found out the third one was directed by David Slade, who
Okay.
did 30 Days a Night, and I was like,
Mm.
"Here we go." Oh, same stuff. Got it.
Oh,
Got
we're
it.
not changing much. Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Oh,
Got it. See, we're doing that.
Nothing cool. Great.
But just like kind of going back to the Mormonism, they don't even get together until they're married, right?
No,
Sexually?
like the night of their she tries to. That's actually what I kind of like about Bella is everyone makes jokes about Kristen Stewart and like her awkward acting and how like Bella is just this shy little strange thing, but Bella
Bella
she's
was like,
ready.
give me that dick.
The whole time she's like, please have sex with me, but they wait until their wedding night, and then she ends up getting pregnant and then becomes a vampire. And then there's the whole werewolf side of things where like the werewolf imprinted on the baby before she was even born.
Real creepy.
So much drama. Yeah. So, and there's obviously more movies after that, but that I had to stop there with the sexed up, glittery vampires because that was just real special.
Yeah. Okay. I actually have a surprise for you guys.
Yeah. What are you
I
saying?
was going to cover energy vampires, but I actually found out we've already done that in another episode.
That sounds about right.
So then I was going to maybe try and cover some vampire stories, but same deal. We kind of covered all the good ones. I was looking for something. So as a treat for you and for our listeners, you've just stumbled into a conversation already in progress. This is Ask Me Everything, the
God.
show for I want to suck your blood questions and drink from my cup and live forever answers. My name is
Ooh.
Ashley and I'm the curator. And we are answering some questions.
We just
today.
fell into an Ask Me Everything episode. It's so exciting.
Surprise. All right.
I love
First up, how would you react if vampires turned out to be real, but most of them were super racist because of being from the 19th century? What a bummer.
Oh, God.
You know, if you don't mind, I'll go real quick. As
Yeah.
a white man, I think I would be fine
You'd be
But-
you'd be okay.
if they wanted to initiate me into their ranks. I
Mhm.
think, this is where, as a vampire now, I can be the change I want to see.
There
See?
you go.
It's a great
I
answer.
like that. Wait. I need to know. When you say racist, in what way? That they're only going to come kill white people? Or they only are going to kill
No,
black
they're
people
just
because they
like-
hate them?
Like when you're hanging out with them, they're saying some like crazy
Oh,
racist
so it's
shit.
more under-
And you're
okay.
just like,
I didn't know if
"Jeez
you meant like it's
Louise."
who they were like
Right.
choosing to take.
No,
Okay.
they're just like really like you can't really go to any vampire parties if you turn into a vampire because they're all super fucking racist.
Right. I think I would gladly want to become a vampire, but then depart from them
Right.
as my community. Like if they tried to say like, hey, so we actually have a potluck every Wednesday, I would say I'm going to skip it. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm kind of a loner and I would just go out.
Being from the 19th century, are they misogynist as well? Like, that's
Oof.
Oh yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, they're totally
gosh.
I don't know.
So
misogynist
being a
too.
woman
Yeah.
involved, maybe I just
See,
need to hide
it's
away.
rough.
Sorry, ladies.
It's rough. You're gonna either have to like, I mean, obviously if they're still like actively creating new vampires pretty regularly, the times will change with it and we'll be fine.
I hope.
But
That is rough. But I do like the idea of being a vampire. Is that weird?
no,
Like, how much
everyone
power?
does.
I have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
Are they racist against, like, people of color? Or are they racist against, like, werewolves?
I would say it depends because here's the thing.
Good question.
I think all vampires are pretty prejudiced against werewolves.
I
Right?
think so.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I feel like, again, if you go back to Twilight, I feel like that whole theme of having the werewolves on one side of town and being Native American against these, like, white
nasty,
European-looking
Stephanie.
vampires, I'm like, oh, it's a movie about racism, I see.
Yeah.
So, yes, I think that is true.
Next question. All right, so the three of us, we're pretty much all married, but let's say we're single. Would you date a vampire? Why or why not? And let's say you don't turn for whatever reason, at least like right away. You're just dating someone who's a vampire. You're not a vampire. Would you or wouldn't you
They're
not
not
date
turning
them?
you. You can just date as a human.
Yeah.
I would be into it, especially if, as with these sexy tropes that we've been talking about, if they have that, like, strength that we've been chatting about, I'd be into it.
Alex, if you're listening, Lauren would like to be thrown on the ceiling.
I need you to throw me against a wall as hard as you can.
I don't know. That's a tough one.
I wouldn't.
If I don't,
it helps.
if I don't get to turn out of it, I don't know. I also
But maybe you can request it. You might be able to.
maybe.
Possibly. If I can request it, then I'm going to go hard, yes. But other than that, I don't know if I would. I get mad jealous. So, and vampires seem like they're, just kind of down for whoever. Like if they're going to be committed to me, the answer might change. But
Yeah.
if
Well, I mean,
you're just asking me right now, knowing what I know about vampires, I'm probably going to say no.
that's kind of how I felt, where it was like, I would only want them to bite me, but also I don't want to get bit.
Yeah, that
So, like, my
hurts.
partner would just be, like, really hungry all the time and, like, not satisfied, because I'd be like, I don't want you biting some skank.
But what
But
if
also
they were
don't bite
doing,
me?
like, the animal blood or synthetic blood? Like, what
True,
world
but
is your boyfriend in?
Again, most of the time in films, animal blood is not delicious. They have to
Sure.
suffer through the
then
drinking
you're
of
feeling
animal
bad
blood.
and-
Yeah, or like True Blood is like drinking, a Slim Fast
yeah.
in
Right.
place of a meal.
It's like the diet.
yeah.
yeah.
What if
So
you
it's
just
like
start
my
like a-
partner would be pretty fucking
Like
miserable.
a do-it-yourself, draw your own blood at home sort of situation.
Yeah,
It's just like a
DIY.
small needle, like, here you
Ooh.
go.
Like, you can have a little bit.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
that okay?
Here's a taste.
You'd be like, it's sexy though when I bite you, and I'll be like, for you maybe.
Kind of hurts.
It's pretty gross for me, actually. Yeah, and I also, like, you'd have to change your schedule. You'd have to be awake at night.
Have to get a night job.
You'd have to get a
Yeah.
night job. You'd have
that's
to be
true,
awake
to
at
try and
night
be
all
on
the
their schedules,
time.
right?
Is this person going to pull their weight? Are they going to pay half the rent? It's expensive.
Seriously, do you
to
have a
live,
fucking
especially
job?
here
Are
in
they?
Los
It doesn't
Angeles,
feel like they work. They don't do anything.
But I think the good thing about living in somewhere like Los Angeles is there's a lot of overnight jobs, so they could work.
right.
True.
Yeah,
I
but
would have to
independently
put them to
wealthy. Yeah, there's a lot of.
Big nightlife.
There are
I
a lot of
also feel
questions.
like when I'm in a relationship, like I said, I fucking hate dating. I want to immediately, like literally if I start dating someone, I want to immediately be in the like burping, farting, sitting on the couch all weekend mode.
Mm-hmm.
And I just feel like vampires, especially
be
if they're an
into it.
older vampire, they want to do stuff. And it's just like, ugh.
Vampires like to keep busy. That is
Yeah.
true. Like, you
They got a
don't
lot of
just
time
want
on
to
their hands. They're
chill.
bored.
Yeah, they are bored.
See, you guys are talking me out of it. Like, you have changed my mind. But also, did you hear what my answer was? I think I want to sleep
I was
with a
going to say, you just
vampire.
want to fuck a vampire, which was
Yeah.
not my question.
No. Yeah.
I think that answer
think that's
for all three of us
different.
is yes, I
Yes.
would fuck a vampire.
No, then I don't want to date a
Date?
vampire. You
No.
guys ruined
Date?
it for me
Absolutely not.
real quick. It sounds awful.
What would your edgy vampire name be if you got to choose one?
Ooh.
Liquid Death.
Liquid
I just went
Death!
to the can and was like, that's kind of fun.
Actually, our episode today is sponsored by Liquid Death,
That's right.
and all three of us are drinking it
I'm
right now,
drinking
and I am
it.
So good.
extremely
I'm gonna take a loud
hydrated.
sip.
I would have taken a sip, but Liquid Death is so good, I finished all my
It's
water
gone,
already.
and that's a tall boy.
Billy, what would your name be?
Oh my god, I'm trying to think of like some kind of like dark gothic raver name, like Roaming Darkness, or
Yeah.
I don't know.
Or you could
Like,
have something that rhymes with Vlad, like Chad.
yeah,
But Chad is so awful.
But Chad's the name, and it's not great.
Chad the Impaler.
Chad the Impaler.
Chad the Impaler. It's just this guy with a popped collar that walks in. Chad the Impaler.
I love the
is a frat boy.
the crew in that episode of What We Do in the Shadows. Big Vlad, Little Vlad.
Yes, yeah.
I like Count Rapula is my
Count
favorite.
Rapula.
Oh my god.
You know what's funny? When I was thinking of this, my third,
Yeah,
I
what
wanted
would
my
you say?
cool vampire name to be like about something I do. So my first thought was Slingshot, and then I was like, "Hey Ash, When's the last time slingshots were cool? And why is that the first thing that came into your head?
When do you play with a slingshot?
When?
When was the
But I
last
was
time?
like slingshot. And then I was like,
No,
Hmm,
that's
okay.
not something.
I don't want to be slingshot.
But
And then
you've got a built-in perfect vampire name. Just Ash.
Ash
That's good.
is
Yeah.
good.
It's good.
I know, honestly, just go with
Yeah.
that. And
Why-
you have to whisper it.
Yeah. Hey,
I
nice to meet
looked
you.
up some badass names. You know there are sites of badass names, and I
course.
found a few that were fitting for me specifically, so I have to share them. One of them is Batista, which is a Latin name that means to dip, and honestly, I love dips.
I am a dipper, too.
I am a dip queen, and I double dip everything, so
I always have to have a
Batista's
side
good.
of ranch
From
for dipping.
This day forward, I will only refer to you as Batista.
But then also,
I want to call you the dipper.
She's my little dipper.
She's my little dipper. I also found the word calypso, which is Greek for she who hides,
Yep,
Ooh.
that's fitting.
which I
Hide in your
feel
home.
that represents me too. All right, what we've got? Chad the Impaler,
I can't be liquid death.
Ash. Oh, you could be Liquid Death. That's
No,
fine,
I mean,
yeah.
I know that. I just
But
saw
we'll
the
just
canon
call you
went with it. LD. LD's coming tonight. Oh my god, nope. Whorehound.
Whorehound.
Call back to last week.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
I know that that's a term for something else already, but it felt
cough
right.
drops. If the True Blood universe was real, and one day it was announced on the news vampires are real and people started coming out of the coffin, if any famous person turned out to be a vampire, who would it be?
Easy. Nick Cage.
Oh, Nick Cage.
Yeah.
There's already theories about it.
Yep.
I said Grimes.
Oh my gosh, she has to be, right?
Also, like Angelina Jolie, she's already got the blood thing and she makes out with her brother, which is like very vampiric behavior.
And also, he's been out of popular culture for a while, so probably like Elvis he's hiding,
Ooh,
Elvis.
There's all those Elvis theories.
Which, yeah.
Elvis.
Death
Totally
becomes her.
Oh, yeah.
That's very vampiric. I mean, it's
Yes.
not. It's like a, you know,
But it's-
potion,
yeah.
but
I'm
Elvis
trying
is
to
at that
think
party.
of like the pastiest, weirdest celebrity out there.
Tilda Swinton's absolutely a
Well,
vampire.
and she played a vampire
Yeah,
in the
Only
movie
Lovers
that
Left
we were
Alive.
just talking about. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh gosh, yeah, she is. I could also see Timothy Chalamet being a vampire, possibly.
Totally.
He's got
but,
like
the
just that skinny, like
douchiest
sunken in
vampire
face. Yeah,
ever.
but he's like Chad. He's Chad
He's
the
Chad
Impaler
the
because he's
Impaler.
got that voice. I'm Chad the Impaler.
He's like, "What's up? I'm at the premiere of Dune."
Chad the Impaler. Pete Davidson. He also has that same thing, like the sunken in eyes and like the pale skin. I could see both
And
of
he's
them.
sort
and they're
of he's
friends.
so morose, and
Yeah.
it's sort of like, yeah, this guy's been here forever.
Someone asked him in an interview, I think I say someone, like it was like a friend because they were being very personal, but they're like, what is with the dark eyes? And he's like, I just don't sleep very much. Vampire.
Vampire.
Pete.
If a new vampire movie were to come out, what's something you would want to see and something you're sick of seeing?
I mean, I feel like at this point we have to say vampires in space, right?
Yeah, I
Vampires
was like,
in
are we
space
all
is
Vampires in
thinking
space.
space?
Easy
Space
answer.
vampires.
You know what I really want to see? So we've seen way too many vampire movies dealing with like becoming a vampire type
Right.
stories. And I think I would want something more dealing with the everyday life of being a vampire, something less sexy. So like, for example, these days, if you were a vampire feeding off of humans, who would you be feeding off of? Homeless, sex workers, and drug addicts. Just like serial killers
It's
preying
like,
on
who
people.
is this someone who can
So
be
it's
forgotten?
not
Yeah.
sexy. It's
Right.
kind of
Sad and real.
It's
Yeah.
sad and real. And I would like to see a movie in which a vampire has to. Maybe he becomes the person of interest in a case, and you're following the detective who thinks there's something bigger going on, and the vampire trying to work his way out of a sticky situation.
Yeah. I do like that, especially because as we've been discussing, every vampire movie is basically just, symbolism of something else. And that feels like the perfect movie to come out now in this time of like, okay, who are the people who we think are just easily forgotten? And then go on this like serial killer hunt. What you think?
Basically, it's a serial killer movie,
I like
but
it.
with
a
the twist
twisty
of
twist.
him being a vampire.
That's so smart.
Be a great twist if it wasn't revealed until close to the end too. You just follow the cop who's hunting a serial killer.
Oh yeah. And people would go for it because they love true crime anyway, but then at the end to be like, it was a vampire.
TM.
TM. Cover
At the
it.
very end, just everything gets supernatural out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Out of
nowhere.
And everyone in the audience is like, what happened?
What? I don't.
What?
And it's called Chad the Impaler.
I'm really tired of all these people taking my name.
Starring Timothy Chalamet.
Now I gotta go fight Chalamet.
No, I gotta go battle Chalamet. Oh.
I think what I would like to see, not story-wise, I'd kind of like to have an 80s throwback. Like, you see all these vampire movies, not all, not so much anymore, but where they'll like turn into a bat or something like that.
Mhm.
I'd love a good American Werewolf in London, like, body horror transformation. Like, get to see,
Yeah.
like, when they turn into a bat, like maybe like the wings sprouting out, like this kind of big, grotesque transformation. I think that'd be great.
Ooh,
Yeah, maybe even a painful transformation.
Make it hurt.
You know, shit, what is that Ethan Hawke vampire movie?
Daybreakers.
So Daybreakers.
Man, you answered that so fast. This is why Billy is the best.
This is why we have you on for
Oh
vampires.
my gosh.
That story, I didn't so much love the movie. It had some faults for me, but the story of that movie is so fantastic. It's essentially, for anyone who hasn't seen it, vampires have killed too many humans, and now there's a blood shortage, and it's a very like corporate,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
sort of there are we're running out of blood, and you see most of the world is vampires, and there's only a few people alive, and you see like vampires going up to get their blood latte, and all of a sudden the prices are like outrageous. It's like
Right.
$30 for a latte.
It's like, what do you do
And
when
it's
there's a shortage? How are we
unsustainable.
going to solve this?
And in that film, when you can't afford to feed yourself, essentially, because you have to buy human blood now, you can't just bite someone in the street.
Right.
You transform into a monster. And so they're trying to solve vampirism now, because if not, they're all going to be just like monsters ruling the earth. It's very good.
Another
Yeah,
like
they just-
very smart idea. Like,
Yeah.
I love the way people put a twist on vampires.
Yeah.
That's why.
I want to see more shit like
love
that.
this.
I don't need another fucking love story between
No.
a vampire and a human. I just don't.
I was going to say, to answer the part of the question where you said, what are you tired of seeing? I think enough with the romance. Like, we went hard with Twilight. We went hard with, I mean, every movie I named tonight,
Yeah.
basically. Like, we
And
have
I
enough of the love stories,
understand
but-
because when it's a vampire in love with a human, you get to be that fantasy. Like, you're the
Yes,
human,
exactly.
and like, oh my god, what if that happened? But like, if you are gonna make a vampire love story, I need another Interview with a Vampire
Yeah.
or Ganjin.
There has to
Like,
be
I need
more to it.
something, maybe 2 vampires, only lovers
Only
left
lovers alive,
alive. Yeah, something like that. Let the right one in. I don't need
Yeah.
another vampire and human love story.
Right. And like, yeah, if you are going to have the romance part of it, I also want it to be like a little grotesque then on the side. Like, I
Yeah.
want the horror to also be there. Like,
Mhm.
let's have romance, but also something like super gory and creepy happening off at the side. And also, this has nothing to do with anything that you guys just said. You had amazing answers. But in my head, I was thinking I would love to see a late 60s, early 70s vampire movie at a music festival. Because I feel like I've never seen a hippie vampire. So I kind of want to see like a vampire take Woodstock and just start taking people out while they're dancing to the music.
Or like a 3-day festival and people start slowly like disappearing from
Yeah,
the festival.
Like, where,
And you think,
where's
oh, they
everyone
just-
going?
They just got drunk and stumbled into the woods, and there's just a vampire picking
That's
them
the
off.
thing. It's creepy because it's so crowded. No one's like noticing it happen. But this vampire was just like sitting in the woods waiting, and all of a sudden, all these people are flooding there to hear the music.
I
And
think we
he's
should
like,
TM that too.
TM. Joe and I actually on Ask Me Everything, you guys should listen to it, recently had a question. Joe asked a question about vampires, and when I was like explaining my answer, I talked about how like I bet vampires had like really dope decades and like decades that were like horrible for them.
They just hate
So
it.
like the 60s and 70s, a lot of daytime activities in the 60s and 70s,
Yeah.
probably a huge bummer for vampires. But then you get in the 80s and 90s and you have nightclubs are coming back,
Yeah.
especially
Raves.
you
like
can just
Yeah.
be
raves.
underground. Yeah,
Heroin chic is in, so you can just
Mhm.
like blend in,
that's
like
right.
great decades. And
That's
then we're
true.
back to now. This shit sucks for vampires.
Yeah. Yeah, what can you do?
What can
in
you
this
do,
day and
man?
age? Nothing.
You
Oh,
gotta
that's
hit
real.
up those decades with some great nightlife.
So yeah, I guess this like festival vampire that I'm thinking of, he would maybe have to be against the like I burn up in the daylight trope,
Mhm.
which again, I think you can put whatever twist you want on a vampire. So
That's
he could
the
just be
thing.
this dude that's like, the sun don't bother me, or maybe has like a necklace that makes it okay to go in the sun. I don't know.
A necklace that makes it okay.
All I can think is, I need to Google the title Festival of Blood. Does this exist? Should I write this movie?
Oh my
anyone
god,
have-
if that's not a thing yet, this is going down. I'm very excited about this.
Pyre Fest.
Instead of Fire Fest. That is good.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just a really shitty vampire who lured people to his island.
And then just serves them styrofoam, nothing, and kills them. It's fine.
We are kind of out of time. Did you have more before we go?
I mean, I always have more,
Yeah,
but
of
you know,
course.
it's...
But hey, yeah, if you have more fun facts, give them to us.
No, I just had a blast talking
Good,
my
okay.
favorite creatures of
Yes.
all time. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on the show again. I'm so glad we got to have you back on again before I leave.
I know, before Ashley leaves.
So
us.
sad.
And like I said, you've been on so many now. If I'm ever sad and I'm really missing my Billy, I have 5 whole episodes that I can go
listen to
back
his
to
voice.
and listen.
You're going to have to be one of those people that we record with remotely. So we're sending you a full setup.
Okay.
Just get ready
Send you
to
a
set up your
mic.
microphone.
Gonna need to get a bigger apartment. Okay.
Make sure that you guys follow Billy on Instagram at the Billy Roach to stay up to date on what he's up to and to see all of his amazing artwork you posted on there. Do you have anything you want to plug at all aside from your Instagram?
No, just my Instagram, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to put more art on there. And also, right now, every October, I do 31 days of Halloween films.
Yep.
I would love to see more people get on that. I'd love to like a big group hashtag. I'd love to see
Hell
other people
yes.
doing it because it's such a fun thing to
Mhm.
share these movies with people and like learn about new movies
Mhm.
Right.
from things that movies that other people are watching I've never heard of. So
I
Right.
love
I
seeing what
agree.
people are watching.
Yes,
Yeah.
we
During
obviously
October.
haven't done it every night because it's been such a busy month, but we've started to post
Yeah.
when we can the movies we're watching, and everyone has been engaging with it so much because it's either like, oh, I haven't seen this movie in years, I love it, or oh my gosh, I've been wanting to watch that, and it's very fun.
yeah, it's super fun. I love it.
Make sure that you guys are following us as well at Keep It Weirdcast on all platforms to stay up to date with what we're up to and to chat with us about all things weird. Please rate our show 5 stars on iTunes or the Apple Podcast app and consider joining our Patreon at www.patreon.com/keepitweirdpodcast. You can donate $1, $5, or $10 to the show, and that gets you multiple bonus episodes every month, a newsletter, and discounts on merchandise. Speaking of merch, as I said earlier, we have a new merch store, and you can find that link by clicking on the links in our profile on our Instagram or heading to www.keepitweirdpodcast.com/merch. It's our TeePublic store. There's a ton of shit on there. It's all amazing. Check it out. Billy, what's our sign off?
I'm just going to keep it simple. Happy Halloween.
I want to eat your candy.
And keep it weird.
A newsletter.
Oh, did you lose your page?
There's no page.
And a newsletter. The
And
end.
a newsletter.